Local stories, local people. We're taking you inside Western Mass news. It's the Even Better Western Mass podcast with Dave Madsen.
Good to have you with us for this week's edition of Even Better Western Mass. 2 months now into the COVID-19 shutdown. This whole thing started in mid-March, and here we are mid-May. Things are starting to ease up just a little bit. In Massachusetts, maybe a little less than in other parts of the country, but, we can't be too careful. The fact that we don't want this to spread any more than it already has. So I know we all long for those days where we can get back out and enjoy times and with our friends. I am dying to get back out on the golf course sometime in the not too distant future, but we all have to be patient. In the meantime, in this week's edition of Even Better, you're going to hear from Sandra Marsian, the Vice President of Membership, Travel, and Marketing for AAA of the Pioneer Valley. You've probably seen her many times on Western Mass News. Sandra and I talk about the effect COVID-19 is having on travel and how you can get away from things for at least a few minutes right in your own home. But my first guest is Mary Kay Wydra, the president of the Greater Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau. Travel and tourism is a huge part of the Pioneer Valley economy, and it's taken a huge hit during this coronavirus shutdown. We talk about the short and long-term impact and what things could be like once hotels and restaurants reopen for business. I know every part of the economy has taken a hit, but the hit that this coronavirus has done to hotels and tourism here in the Valley.
Yeah, devastating impacts with the pandemic and then the forced closure of business. The first wave hit and we saw our restaurants really mobilize and determine that they could or couldn't do curbside or takeout service. But it was our hotels who were pretty much given the order that no more leisure visitation. Their doors were only to be open for COVID displaced people or contract business that they might have had in their facility, like a airline crew or a military crew or corporate, that those rooms were reserved, but no visitors coming in off the street. So it was a devastating impact. And what was disappointing was that we were off to a really good start this year. January are definitely a need season here in the Pioneer Valley and Western Mass. Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate. It's just not in people's mindset to travel in the winter here. And yet our January numbers were really doing well. We were up 12% over the previous January of 2019. We had that big weekend with Red Sox Winter Weekend, the Hoop Hall Classic that the Hall of Fame hosted. So we were off to a really good we were up by about another point. And I'm talking about RevPAR, which is a word we use in the industry. And it's basically revenue per available room. And it's a function of both your rate and your occupancy. So it's, it's a number that our hoteliers really track, and we were doing well. And then when the order came, we immediately saw groups starting to cancel contracts. And to date, I can tell you that we work very closely with the Mass Mutual Center. So we started tracking the Mass Mutual Center lost groups, and then the Eastern States shared information with us. Some of our hotels that have a large amount of meeting space chimed in. And as of now, we're at 118 events lost. And started off kind of slow. The first week we tracked, we had 25, and then it grew to 37. And then it really fell off the cliff and we went to 107 groups lost, and then to 113. And then this past week it went to 118. So my hope is it starts to, even off, or people start, we're at the point where groups have canceled all the way into August at this point. But that group business in terms of economic impact is close to $49 million of lost impact here in the region. Big numbers.
That is staggering. And I think that's one of the things that you bring up that I think most of us don't really understand or don't know, that there are many, many groups and organizations that come to Springfield very quietly to hold their events.
Yeah, honestly, my organization sometimes has an identity crisis because very often, and this isn't just something that's unique to us, very often people don't even know they have a Convention and Visitors Bureau. We do our work out of market. We're running advertising in feeder markets trying to get people to come here. So the exception of our Howdy Awards, which is a local campaign, a local program to honor our frontline service providers, our work is done out of the area, and it is big business here in the region. It's in terms of visitor impact, usually here in Western Mass, Hampden, and Franklin County, it's close to $1 billion in impact. And, jobs, about 7,500 directly in the industry. And then you have jobs that are touched by tourism. They may be the people in the printing business, but I'm talking, hotel, restaurants, attractions. It's big business here. It's the third leading industry in the state, and it's the third leading industry here in this region.
And of course, this time of year, in the month of May, we have all these graduations up and down the valley.
Yeah, we've got 14 area colleges in the university, and we've lost, I feel badly for our restaurants who've lost Mother's Day. They've lost graduation meals and outings, Easter, St. Patrick's Day for our restaurants. So it's been a tough season. And this has been hard on the industry, no doubt.
As far as restaurants are concerned, we've seen many of these restaurants up and down the valley kind of reinventing themselves with takeout and delivery.
Yeah, we immediately switched when we heard they were going to be allowed to do that as, kind of so-called essential services. We put a new section on our website so that we could inform people about who's serving takeout service. We're finishing, I think it ends tomorrow. We did a 30 for 30 promotion. We bought 30 $50 gift cards at 30 different restaurants, and through social media gave those away. Just trying to do what we could to remind people that these businesses are out there, and a way to help is to buy a meal or two each week at a local restaurant.
I think we're seeing a whole new business model that may continue past this COVID-19 crisis.
I think for some maybe, but I think they're eager to get back to their normal business, and the protocols have to be in place. Some guidelines have to be given, and it's going to be a challenge if they're told to limit capacity. Business models are built on volume and quantity of food consumed and so forth, and that's going to be limited. All indications are that those protocols will come down, but we're not certain yet.
It's the other thing, too, is we think about the impact on the businesses themselves, but it's also the impact on tax dollars, too, not only to the state, but also the cities and towns where these restaurants and hotels are located.
Yeah, when you think of tourism, we're taxed on hotel rooms, both at a state level and a local level. The meals are taxed on a state level and a local level. You've got retail, like sales tax, that come into play. So there's been a lot of tax revenue that has been lost as a result of this.
I was reading an article yesterday in Mass Live about all of this, and you were quoted in it too. But one local hotel owner around here was saying that basically they're writing off 2020. It's a loss, a total loss. Is that the general attitude, or are more businesses a little more optimistic about what they can salvage the rest of the year?
Well, I can't speak for everyone. I think. We at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, we're a destination marketing organization. Our job is to tell the world that Western Mass is here, and we have great things to see and do and to come visit. So we have a plan that I'm actually presenting it to my executive committee on Thursday, a recovery plan that will go in phases. So we know that people are in their homes right now. They're getting, you and I were talking earlier about quarantine fatigue. There will be pent-up demand to get out of their homes. So we see our recovery coming in phases, and we assign 3 words. Again, we're in marketing. So inspire, that's what we're trying to do now. We're showing beautiful pictures, imagery, changing our message to tell them, come and visit, explore Western Mass when the time is right. We want people to be safe and healthy and abide by the guidelines. So we inspire right now. Then we want them to inquire. We want them to ask questions, to come and maybe do a day trip. Inspire, inquire, and explore. And so I think our visitation will come in waves, and all indications, and we're sitting through a lot of webinars right now. We're listening to industry experts to make predictions on travel. We're also doing some research. We had done some research in the fall. We went back to that research firm and said, can you please test a sample size of people who have experience visiting Western Mass, and whether or not, what's the likelihood of them coming back? And so we're waiting on the research data, but our plan is going to talk about 3 phases: inspire, inquire, and explore. And so getting our brand out there, keeping our Western Mass brand top of mind with visitors is important. And then we want them to come visit. We think that our attractions will certainly get them here, but is that beautiful vista behind me in the photo. We have an abundance of green space. We have a lot of recreational activities that people can do and continue social distancing while they do it, whether they want to come and fish in the Deerfield or the Westfield rivers, if they want to canoe or hike or bike along our trails. We have a lot of that. And, we know that our research shows it's one of the reasons people come here. We always lead with our attractions. For a period of time, we might be flip-flopping that message and talking about our lovely green space. And when you come out for that, you can also see Yankee Candle. You can hit the Hall of Fame, Seuss Museum, Six Flags, MGM, so forth.
Now, I was talking with Sandra Marsian from AAA, and we were talking about the fact that one of the upsides of this is we're probably not going to see, when this starts to roll out, we're not going to see an uptick in air travel or anything. It's going to be car travel. And that's got to be a good sign for the Pioneer Valley.
Definitely. When we talk about our region, we have 3 A's. We're affordable, we're accessible, and we have that abundance of attractions. So the accessibility and the fact that 91 and 90 cross right here, we're very easy to get to. We've always been a strong drive market.
And you were talking about rolling things out in phases. I also think that the people at home, yes, we can open things up, but they've got to be ready to go out and back to whatever the new normal is until they feel comfortable with it. And I think we mentioned this, until there's a vaccine, they may not be.
It might not be, but I think there will be there will be a certain percentage that will start to wander and start that, again, everything is pointing that they're going to probably stay a little close to home. But we're tapped into US Travel, and they have what's called TIPS, a travel intention pulse survey. And I was just looking at some data this morning, and just in about 2 weeks, the numbers are growing. And again, it kind of ties to that quarantine fatigue. The longer we're in our homes, the more pent up the demand is to get out when we can. And it's showing that about 60% of people are talking about taking vacations within the next 6 months versus 20% on business travel. So, our efforts right out of the block, we're going to be focused on that leisure visitor market.
Now, I think one of the other things is, I know for so many years, the support of the business community that you've had. Are business people optimistic that we will come out of this thing in good shape?
Yeah, I think so. We met one of the first Zoom calls as soon as we got proficient on Zoom. One of the first calls we did was with our area attractions, and that was in April, early April. And we had 22 people on the call representing 12 different attractions in the region, up and down the valley. And at the time, we spent a lot of time talking about protocols and what's the new normal and so forth. I got a lot of comments after talking about how nice it was to be on a call and understand that we're all going through this together. And, I think people now, we're going to do another call with that same group on the 18th of May, and we're going to find out what types of protocols have they or are they prepared to put in place, because that is going to be important to the visitor. That's that safety and their wellness when they visit somewhere. But I think we're turning a corner, and I think people are starting to see brighter days ahead, albeit a new normal.
One of the things I found when MGM opened almost 2 years ago now, I took a walk down Main Street. I purposely made it a long walk so I could listen to people and what they were feeling about things. And it was the first time in a long time that I felt huge optimism about Springfield. And my guess is, and I could be wrong on this, that if people feel that way about Springfield, that good about Springfield, that helps the entire region.
Definitely. It's the way we feel about Boston. We need Boston to be a healthy community for the state to thrive. The region needs Springfield to be a healthy community for the region to thrive. It's again, it was disappointing that this kind of hit. I think, it's a hiccup, it's a big hiccup, but there was a lot of momentum with Springfield, a lot of renewed interest. Springfield underwent a renaissance with MGM coming in, and, all the different upgrades that took place in the downtown. And it could have, everything from the streetscape and the painting of the signs and the murals that were created. I mean, there was definitely a renewed interest in Springfield, and a lot of that was attributed to MGM. Our hope going forward, like you were asking about optimism, we have pretty much a brand new attraction coming online this spring too. The Hall of Fame has been shut down since February. Their timing actually worked out quite well. They made the conscious decision to take the hall completely offline so that they could do the renovations that they wanted to do. They had a tremendously successful capital campaign, and they are changing out the museum so that there are touchscreen exhibits, and it's a brand new, for all intents and purposes, it's a brand new Hall of Fame. So John DeLeva happens to be the chair of the GSCVB board, so I'm very familiar with their plans, and they have tremendous protocols that they're putting in place, and they're optimistic that they'll be opening in June, or as soon as the indications, or we're given the go ahead from the Commonwealth.
I think that's one of the things too, that if we've lived here for any period of time, we sort of take it for granted. But I mean, that's a worldwide treasure, the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. It is the world's only basketball Hall of Fame. And, when they do enshrinement, the world of basketball looks very closely at Springfield, Massachusetts, and that awareness is wonderful for our region.
Now, as we look at this recovery, we're looking short-term, long-term. Is this something that's going to take us years to really come back from and be back to where we are, where we were, that is, before all this hit?
I think it's going to be more of a marathon, not a sprint. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be slow to roll out, but I think it's important. And like I said, I think we will see some activity. I would encourage people here locally to get out. If they live in Franklin County, come down to some of the attractions in Hampden County, and vice versa. Go up the valley and take advantage of all the great things up in Franklin County with Zora Outdoor and Berkshire East. And, I think staycations, they're certainly part of our plan. And that's where you're basically a tourist in your own backyard for a period of time.
And there are so many places we can go to be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed when we talk to local people. There's people here, and I mean, I do it for a living, so I'm familiar with our attractions, but there's a lot of locals who haven't been to the Basketball Hall of Fame, and a lot of people that haven't been to the Seuss Memorial, that in the Dr. Seuss Museum, which is incredible. The whole complex at the museums is incredible. I think of that as our own version. It's our little mini Smithsonian with a campus of museums that you can see all in one visit.
And in a time of a crisis like this, I'm sure this is where we see the strength of the people of the Pioneer Valley, and the businesses too, that will help us rebound.
Definitely. We increased our communication with our membership so that we could keep talking to them and pass on vital information at the beginning, which happened to be all of the stimulus information with the CARES Act, and then information from the state coming down. But then we took one newsletter and just wanted to focus on some of the good things that our members are doing. And, everything from feeding first responders to wearing, I think it was the Sheridan wore an Easter Bunny, somebody at the Sheridan wore an Easter Bunny costume, and they brought Easter candy over to Shriners. And, some of the hoteliers are creating games for guests to play, and just, I think people want to help one another. There's that feeling we all come together. We saw it after 9/11, and I don't know about you, but I certainly, when I am out on the road, I'm seeing even in traffic, people are kinder, and, we're all in this together.
My thanks to Mary Kay Wydra. To learn more about travel and tourism in our area, you can visit explorewesternmass.com. My next guest on Even Better is Sandra Marsian. She's the Vice President of Membership, Travel, and Marketing for AAA of the Pioneer Valley. COVID-19 has derailed travel plans for hundreds of thousands of people since mid-March, and that will continue into the summer. Sandra and I talked about the impact of that and where we may be headed as COVID-19 restrictions are eased. Plus, what you need to know if you're planning on a road trip over the long Memorial Day weekend.
It seems like we're all getting cabin fever, and I think it sounds like these virtual vacations that AAA is going to put on might be just the cure for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All of our travel clients, who've been slowly reaching out to them, giving them a call just to check in on them and see how they're doing, and wish them well and let them know that we're here for them if they need assistance rescheduling their trips, rebooking their trips, or if they just want to talk. So in that process, we found that people are really interested in getting back to traveling. Everyone's comfort level is a little bit different, but we thought this might be a fun way for people who are cooped up at home just to start dreaming about travel again. And the webinars are designed to, we're calling them virtual vacations, but our hope is that it'll just sort of inspire people, educate them, and get them, make them feel like they can sort of transport themselves somewhere while they're at home, readying themselves for their next vacation.
Now, if folks are interested in these, what do they need to do?
All they need to do is visit AAA.com, so www.aaa.com/travel events. And there they can sign up, get a link, and then it will just kind of like how we're having our little podcast via Zoom today. Really, you get a link for the webinar, and then you click on at the designated time to join the meeting. And if for some reason the time or day doesn't work, we are going to post them on our website thereafter. So if you can't make it at that particular time, you can then view it later on. So we plan to have these every Wednesday in May. The times vary depending on the event. For the most part, we're shooting for around 10 o'clock. And we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be exciting, and we kind of have a lot of variety too. So it won't be the same thing each time. We'll focus on river cruise, ocean cruising, guided tours, and train travel. So there's kind of a wide variety of modes of travel that will be transporting people to different destinations virtually.
Now, we're actually now just a couple of weeks away from the long Memorial Day weekend, the first one of the summer. What are you hearing from your AAA clients about their thoughts about travel in the wake of COVID-19?
Definitely a big change. This time last year, we had record numbers of people traveling for Memorial Day weekend, going on road trips, going to see family. Now it's complicated because so many states have different rules, and they vary from state to state. So if you plan on driving through various states, you need to understand what those are. And that's certainly something AAA can assist with, guiding people through those trips if they choose to so go on them. But the other thing they need to factor in is, are the hotels open? Are restaurants open? What businesses will be there for them as travelers to take care of them? Do they need to wear a mask or not? A lot of states are requiring that you wear a mask if you're out in public. So that's another piece that people just aren't sure. What are the rules from state to state? And again, that's something that we at AAA try to help guide our travelers through. So a lot of change with that. I think as all the state requirements and the governors announce new changes, that will also change people's decisions on whether they still travel for Memorial Day weekend. But certainly there's going to be a decline in what we've seen in past years. It stands to reason this will be the lowest travel Memorial Day that we'll see. But we don't even have statistics on expectations because I don't think people even know themselves yet. Because here in the state of Massachusetts, our rules are generated through when? The 18th of May. So that could very well change any day now, that the rules could change. So even people that may be traveling to Cape Cod within the state may not know if they can go or they even want to go. Maine, for instance, as a traveler from Massachusetts, if I were to go to Maine, I have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. So if your vacation's only 1 week long, how much fun is that going to be? But that's certainly going to impact tourism and travelers and how they choose to travel.
Sure, it's not going to be as easy as just jumping in your car on the Friday before Memorial Day and say, well, let's go this place.
Right, absolutely.
Now, as far as travel in general, I mean, you book so many different travels, whether it's, cruises here or, in the Caribbean or in Europe and everything else. What are you seeing with those now? I know most, if not all of them, have been canceled that are coming up in the next few months.
Right. A lot of the great majority of them have been canceled through the end of June, is what we're seeing right now. We're waiting to hear if there's going to be some continued cancellations through July. So we keep an eye on those, and then we reach out to our clients and make a decision. I will say the cruise lines have been amazingly good to work with through all this. They are offering, in many cases, the value of your trip at 125% if you rebook for future. And there's actually some really good booking offers out there that are valid through travel into 2022. So for people that aren't ready to travel now, know they're going to take a trip in a year or so, because obviously this is going to pass us, hopefully sooner than later. Now is probably a really wise time to book your vacation. And they have a lot of cancellation options now that are very liberal. So it's a good time to book. But the problem is that some people are comfortable booking and some people just don't even know how they feel about it yet.
And it's one of those things too. You wonder if that comfort won't return. It'll take a long time for it to return until people know that, number one, there's a vaccine, or it's at least an idea of who has it. How widespread this is.
Right. We've had a lot of our customers choose to rebook their cruises or their tours, depending on what they had traveling this summer. And then there are some people that just chose to cancel, get their money back in some situations. That's the other part where we come into play, is trying to advocate for our travelers, because some tour providers are not as good about how they're handling all this. I think they're afraid they'll go out of business. That's why we're super cautious who we book with, because in instances like this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of how good a company is that we're booking our travelers on. We have a couple of tour operators that are not giving full refunds back to people, even though they've canceled the tour. So we're doing our best for people that want their money back to try to advocate for them, and as best we can. And in some cases, our hands are tied.
Sure.
But fortunately, as we're talking the 2%, the great majority of our partners are giving full refunds, or even better if you decide to rebook, which is good news.
And I would say too that's the difference between booking by yourself or for yourself and then booking through AAA, because your folks know exactly what bumps in the road there are, what ways to get around things, and the best way to find deals and to protect you.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is where, and I've been saying it to our agents right now, because they're deflated. I mean, they worked really hard to help people plan their vacations. Their customers are frustrated and disappointed because they're not going on their vacations. And our agents are used to help planning a wonderful vacation for someone. They're not used to canceling it all. It's depressing. So after a while, the novelty of that wears off. But I keep reminding them, this is where you're really proving your true value to your clients, because this is when they need us the most. It's great to help them plan a trip, but then when unforeseen instances like this happen, and they seem not like COVID-19, but they seem to occur all the time, whether it's a hurricane that goes through, or if there's some sort of political unrest in a nation, or terrorism, or something like that happens. We've gone through this before, just not to the level that we've seen with how COVID-19 has impacted travel. We've never seen anything.
No, never.
Like this.
Well, and I can attest to it. We booked a trip to Disney a few years ago through AAA, and we got down there and there were some problems. So we called the agent up here, and within 15 minutes, everything was resolved. It was that easy. So they run a good interference.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly, do our best to try to rectify things when the unforeseen happens. And we even talked about this as a group. It's like, what would somebody do if they did book on their own, or didn't book with as reputable a tour company as the ones that we work with are? I mean, you really could have gotten yourself into a pickle. And we are very strong advocates of travel insurance. We really encourage our clients to buy it because it covers so much. But pandemics, those don't count. So the travel insurance can help with some of the costs in a situation like this, and usually can cover most anything. But even situations like this, when it gets to a level of a pandemic, all bets are off.
Yeah. And the other part too is I'm sure even booking air travel now, because with masks and security and different things now, all that's changing too.
Yes, everything's changing. Some airlines are requiring that people wear masks on flights, which doesn't surprise me. I probably would want to wear one just as a precaution, even if they weren't requiring it. It sounds like a lot of the flights are, empty. I mean, there's not a lot of people on them. So I guess that's a good thing for social distancing purposes. But all of this is changing. I hate to use the word fluid because it's being used so frequently, but it really is. This is just changing so quickly. Every day, we need to educate ourselves as to what's changed so we can notify our clients as to what's changed. So it's funny how you see other people that are sent either home to work or aren't working at all because of this. And then on our side, I feel like we've never worked harder to try to just keep up on all of this. And as we are notified of new cancellations, all the agents having to reach out to notify their clients. And I mean, and even at AAA, like right now, we're kind of reinventing how we deliver service to our members because our branches are still not open, but our employees are all at home, still delivering our services. So we're working on new ways of delivering service. For instance, we're doing remote document checks for registry transactions. We find a lot of people that were coming in for their real IDs or their license renewals didn't have the correct documentation. So we're doing that via Zoom online for our customers on an appointment basis. So they can talk to one of our AAA members at home, and then so they hold up their documentation to the screen, and we can let them know if they have the right materials so that when we do reopen and when registry services resume, they've got everything they need to get going. So it's interesting to see how industry changes so quickly to adapt to this environment.
And that was a quick turnaround. I mean, within a matter of days, you really had to change your business mode.
Absolutely. I mean, and our IT department did an amazing job getting people equipped to work from home. We all weren't equipped to work from home before this happened, and we decided really within an hour of opening that we weren't going to open that day. So they had a lot to do in a really short time, and it's taken everybody some adjustment, but it's making us look at how, when we reopen, how many of these services will we just keep because it's more convenient for people. If they don't want to leave the house, they don't want to come into the office, or they don't want to have to go out if they're older or are not healthy and they're so concerned about going back into businesses, how can we deliver those services virtually for them?
This has to be tougher for you too, because the fact that there's really so much that we don't know about this. I mean, sure, many states are reopening and, slowly, but I guess the whole question is say they reopen and cases of a COVID-19 flare up again, that could change things all over again.
Absolutely. And with such little notice, where these rules just keep changing, like recently the governor of Massachusetts said everybody that goes out needs to wear a mask if they're going to be, going to the grocery store or whatever. It's a requirement. And it's taking a while for people to realize that. I left the house for the first time since March 20th to go to the grocery store yesterday. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty long run. I did all right. And when I went, I put my mask on, and I was surprised how many people there weren't wearing it. So I think, and just as it relates to the travel industry, it's as these rules change, people's desire to travel may change, or their ability to travel may change. Other countries all have their different rules as well. So maybe if we're okay, but these other countries still are struggling with the virus, people will be limited as to where they can travel to, or they may need to self-quarantine when they return from those places. So it's become really tricky, to say the least.
I mean, from what you're hearing within the industry, what can we expect for the remainder of 2020, or is it still too early to tell?
I think it's still a little early to tell. I think that my expectation is by the fall, cruises will be back to fully functional. I think maybe late summer. I expect those ships to go. That said, who knows? You know, I mean, it really just depends on if we can get this thing under control. I think that it seems like we're starting to get better here in this country. We expect people to take to North American travel more quickly once we're able to go to Canada, because right now we can't. But a lot of people going to, whether it's to the national parks when they're able to, or to taking some of those train trips across the country. There's a lot of options out there for people right here in this country that are beautiful and amazing that they've never seen. So I think people's comfort level will start with road trips and work their way back to flights, but it will start here in the United States, and eventually to Canada and Mexico once that becomes an option, because I think people will just feel a little bit more comfortable with that. I think that because we've seen so many people rebook their cruises and rebook them for 2021, I think 2021 could be a very big year for travel. That presents a lot of opportunity for us once people feel comfortable again. I think it'll lead to a lot of last minute bookings for travel agencies and for travel vendors, because people are cooped up, they're frustrated, they're getting annoyed with it. I think people don't like to be controlled, and this virus is controlling us in a really huge way. And people who love to travel are going to get back to travel. And when they do, we expect that it's going to be in a really big way. I actually expect that we could see in 2021 it difficult for people to get to go on the trips they want to, because I think the demand is going to be high.
So folks are thinking about it. The best idea probably would be to book early and book with insurance just in case.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would absolutely advise that they consider booking now, because there's just, I mean, I was looking at one promotion that Holland America has going right now on their cruise lines, and it's booking through 2022. So I could book a trip a year or two out. And it's almost as if you're going on an all-inclusive trip where they're including the beverage package and everything that you would normally have to pay a fee for, whether it's Wi-Fi. It's as if you're going on an all-inclusive cruise for the price of what you'd pay for a regular cruise today without all the enhancements. So, and with a cruise with confidence cancellation policy. So if people change their mind, it's really easy to do so, more so than it was before this pandemic came through.
And you talk about road travel now too. The irony is gasoline prices are as low as they've been in years, and we can't go anywhere.
Right, exactly. I keep saying, oh, I should probably go get gas, but that would require me to leave the house and go get gas. I just started my car for the first time since we stopped working, and I stopped going in, or I should say stopped going into the office to work. And I stopped going into the office, I think it was probably around March 13th. And I thought, oh gosh, will my car even start? And we're seeing on the road service side of business, a lot of activity on the battery front. A lot of people, we do a mobile battery replacement at AAA.
Yeah.
So we're selling a lot of batteries right now.
I've taken advantage of that many times.
Yeah. So people are going to start their car for the first time in a really long time and finding their battery is dead. So we're going out to help people with that, whether it's on the roadside if they have left the house, or if they're at home and they just haven't left yet, because their cars just sitting there. We're not really maintaining them because we're not driving them. Cars like to be driven. They don't want to sit around. So that's side of the business is not as busy, but has picked up quite a bit because A, because of the batteries, but B, because people are cooped up, they're going for drives. So they're going for drives in their car they haven't driven in a really long time, and that results in breakdowns. So.
Sure, and if you live in the country, there's always the chance that mice or something will nest in your engine, so it's a good idea to start it a couple of times a week.
Yeah, we found a little nest under my hood this weekend. My husband's like, we better lift the hood on your car and see what's going on in there. We don't want the mice to get in there. And they made a little home, so we had to clean that out.
Sure enough. Sandra, as we wrap up, your best advice for folks who are thinking about doing travel, as we hopefully get out of this pretty soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, with the travel webinar series, it's a great way to just sort of stay engaged and educated and ask experts their thoughts on all of this. Definitely people who are comfortable and ready to get back to travel and want to make plans for 2021. Now is a great time to do that because there are a lot of values out there. Certainly European travel is a giant question mark right now in some respects. But a lot of tour partners are putting together their options for 2021. And in fact, I have a meeting about that today with one of our really valued partners to see what they've got on deck for 2021. So we hope to bring all those plans to our members who are comfortable. And the ones who aren't comfortable, we're happy to discuss any questions that they have, any concerns that they have, if it will help them better understand and make that decision for themselves.
My thanks to Sandra Marsian. Now, if you'd like to learn more about AAA's virtual vacation or about travel in general, you can visit PioneerValleyAAA.com. Well, that's it for this week. I'm Dave Madsen. Thanks for watching or listening to Even Better Western Mass. Stay well, stay home, and if you can, join us next week.
This is our fight. Right here, right now. This is rising to the challenge in an unprecedented time. This is coming together as we sit apart. This is lending a hand as much as we can. This is our community, and we will stay strong. This is Western Mass. We're in this together.